Today's show of Kevin Pollak's Chat Show brought to you by the fine folks at Mack Weldon. I'm a true believer in these particular folks, not just reading copy, although I am clearly reading copy. They believe in smart design, premium fabrics, and simple shopping. It says here I should talk about my shopping experience. Okay, all right. Quite easy, quite ridiculously easy. You need a computer or phone or some sort of tablet and you're done. All their products are naturally, help me out with this one, Sammy.
Yep.
Antimicrobial?
Antimicrobial.
Oh, that's fantastic. Which means, of course, they eliminate odor. I'm soaking in it. They want you to be comfortable, so if you don't like your first pair, get this, my favorite part, you can keep it, but they'll still refund your money. You don't like it, keep it around the house, wash your car with it, whatever, but they will still refund your money. I like that a lot. No questions asked. I like that part too. We won't ask any questions about what you've done with these pants, what you plan on doing with them now that you don't like them. We're just going to send you a check. Not only does Mack Weldon's underwear, socks, and shirts look good, they perform well too. It's good for working out, going to work, going on dates, just everyday life. Please go to MackWeldon.com, get 20% off using promo code KEVIN, K-E-V-I-N. That's your promo code. Get 20% off. Go to MackWeldon.com and get 20% off using promo code KEVIN. Welcome back to Kevin Pollak's Chat Show live today, as we have been for quite some time now. The West Side Comedy Theater. I want to thank Sean Casey and all the fine partners who own and operate this wonderful theater on the west side of Los Angeles, just off the 3rd Street Promenade in your Santa Monica area. Great shows here, improv, sketch, stand-up. Go to the calendar, West Side Comedy Theater, and I highly recommend this theater. It's the talent that come through here. I directed a film recently and grabbed several of them for the film. Not just because I owed them money, but because they are so ridiculously, if not unfairly, talented. There was no show last week due to my getting a year older, which took an entire weekend. I hope you had a great Halloween. I shared my birthday with my father growing up. There's a relation to my guest today and my birthday as well, which we'll get into. All right, his granddaughter. But sharing a birthday with your father, not all it's cracked up to be. I would tell people that, they go, oh, that's so great. Nope. No. You see, your birthday is supposed to be your day, right? And I had to celebrate mine with Dad. Sure, some years we celebrated how I wanted to, but most years we just, ended up at the track. Where he would say something like, remember, Kev, if that horse number 5 comes in, you can get that tricycle you've been bitching about. And I would stand there at the side of the rail saying, come on, number 5. I'm pulling on my shirt. That's a throwback from my act from 1987. I hope you enjoyed it. But it is true, I carry on the torch of my dad and my birthday. And I will tell you, it was a very low key when I took some pals, some of which are here in this room, to my favorite steak joint in town, who I won't mention because they're not a sponsor. And it was a yabba dabba doo time.
I'm sorry, Outback is your favorite steakhouse?
Yes, it is.
All right.
And again, we don't mention them because they're not a sponsor.
They did bring us extra dessert.
They brought us a cavalcade of desserts. By the way, was I supposed to tip on top of the fact that the desserts are free?
You know what? I stay out of that.
Leave me out of this?
I don't know.
Given the opportunity. They must have brought $50 worth of appetizer desserts minimum.
Absolutely. It was at least $50.
There were 7 things.
Yeah. Those were all $11 each, for sure. Yeah.
Gotta be.
Yeah.
So put yourself in that position.
Yep.
check comes,
Yep.
they listed the desserts and their prices,
Oh.
and then subtracted that amount.
Yeah, I see what
So
they
they
did
were
there.
showing you the full amount.
Letting you know.
Just in case you felt.
You know what that's like? That's like winning a prize on a game show.
And then
having to pay taxes on said prize before you can receive it. So it costs you money first.
right.
This happened to you?
It might have happened to someone I know who won some prizes on Jeopardy in the 90s, my father. That's not important.
How about if you win tournament live on television and Uncle Sam has his hand out for half of it?
Tell me more about the plight of the man who wins TV.
It was hell. You may have noticed from the camera angle that was just on Sam Levine, who we're very happy to have with us back from the Austin, Texas,
Thank you.
that Corey Levin, no relation or correct spelling, sits in for our very own Jamie Foxx, who is off in the wonderful world of Disney World, if that's a thing.
She's living up to the reputation.
Yeah, she
Can't blame her.
texts me photographs of the Jewish section. It's like not quite the Jewish ghetto of Walt Disney World, but lit up like Hanukkah already, with lights and menorahs and Star
We
David.
had an early Hanukkah
Okay.
this year.
I had to call that out. That was a Kwanzaa candelabra. That was not a menorah.
Were there not enough stems?
I feel there were not enough. It was short by, I believe, 2.
Now hang on.
Hang on.
This is going to sound incredibly Jew nerdy. All Hanukkahs are menorahs, but not all menorahs are Hanukkahs.
Yeah, but these people don't know that.
But any number
people, I mean-
could mean menorah.
You know, let's go to the tote board, see how much we've raised already. Zip. We've got not $1. I'm sorry, this is not the Chabad telethon? I'm for certain. I missed that again in September. I remember the first time Jamie was here from her lovely hometown in Pittsburgh, and I forced her to watch the Chabad telethon on television. She could not believe what she was seeing. It is truly spectacular. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, do yourself a favor in September, I believe. So Jamie's in Florida, and Corey's here. Welcome.
Thanks a bunch.
A shout out to Jamie, who I believe is packing. She returns home tonight, so she'll be back next week. Upcoming show, very exciting. Every now and then we'll do the show live from a larger venue, the Largo at the Coronet Theater on the La Cienega in Los Angeles. We did our 6th anniversary there with Will Forte and Dana Carvey. But Sunday, 2 weeks from today, the 22nd, Vince Gilligan, the brilliant writer, creator of Breaking Bad, and co-creator of Better Call Saul. One could argue reinvented the wheel of the television drama with Breaking Bad. Will be our live guest on stage with an audience, with a giant, well, it's 240 seats.
And they'll all be sold out. So get your tickets now if you haven't already.
Yeah, go to Largo at the Coronet. It will absolutely sell out.
Oh, yeah.
If you happen to be in the Los Angeles area. Those of you getting this, for example, in France, disregard what I just said. Keegan Michael Key, upcoming guest. Yeah, we have
Ava Longoria, upcoming guest?
Ava Longoria, who was double booked for today because I'm an idiot.
No, sir.
Yeah, I did Jane Lynch's Hollywood Game Night.
Yeah.
And Ava Longoria was on the other's team. She and I ended up together and winning $25,000 for the real person contestant. And I said, I do this chat show. I've got the 8th open. And then a couple of nights ago, well, Tuesday, playing poker with our guest today's son at my home, said, so my dad's very, well, he's tepid, excited about this coming Sunday. And I said, what are you talking about? You're the 15th. He said, no, we're the 8th. Yeah, so follow us on Twitter and find out when Eva Longoria will be rescheduled.
You never should have fired your
As it
booking
were.
manager.
Yeah, booking the show myself for almost March will be 7 years.
Yeah.
It's only November. I should calm down about that. Anyways, let's get to our guest today because he's been kindly waiting. Write to us at kpcsfanmail@gmail.com. That's KPCS, as in Kevin Pollak's chat show. kpcsfanmail@gmail.com. And I would love to read some of your emails and let us know how you do the show. Subscribe to us on YouTube, so on and so forth. You watch us on Earwolf. Let us know. My guest today, one of my favorite things as an aging, allegedly famous face is having people come up to me saying, I've been a fan of yours since I was a kid. My very own better half actually accosted me with the line, I had a crush on you when I was 11. So I hastened to introduce him this way, but when I was a lad, he was on a television show that came on my television in the house there where the family would gather. Must have been, well, we'll find out the exact year, but I'm guessing between 67 and 69, somewhere in there, maybe earlier. And it dialed right into the young Jewish experience of, a happening Jewish man with a shiksa goddess wife. It was the little 12-year-old fantasy coming to life every week on the show. Please welcome Mr. Richard Benjamin. Now, Richard.
Thank you. Can I ask you a question?
Please.
You won.
Did.
Okay. And may I ask my son Ross a question?
Sure.
You played poker with him? You never told me any of this.
He's a different player.
We play.
Can I ask you something? Do you still own your house?
We play for pennies.
I want to be clear. He didn't from the winner.
Oh, really?
Well,
Yeah.
it's a story I'm not allowed to talk about on air.
I see.
But certainly in my poker playing annals, I sat down to a heads-up tournament. Sam can call it whatever he wants. But when I play at my home with my friends,
Yeah.
Sam being one of them, we do not play for hundreds of thousands of dollars or even thousands of dollars. Barely hundreds.
I had a little,
How-
I
how
had
d-
a little heart attack during that.
How much should I dial down the amount? Now, poker playing or gambling was never part of your life.
Well, no, not part of my life.
Your father's?
My dad.
Oh, yeah.
My dad loved it, and
Did he play poker with the friends?
yes, he played poker with a man named Gene Pike, who was actually a very large man, and they called him Pike's Peak.
Oh, my.
And they were all characters out of Guys and Dolls and all of that fabulous.
Would they play at the house?
So it would rotate.
Yeah.
It would go.
This is my memory as
Yeah.
a child. I would
Yeah.
hear my dad and his friends play.
Yeah.
My brother and I were sent to our beds, of course.
Yeah.
But you would hear the cacophony
I
of
loved it.
laughter.
I loved it.
Intoxicating.
I loved it. And sometimes my mom, she played mahjong.
Sure.
And when the men were away somewhere else, and I would be in my room hearing those tiles click together.
Absolutely.
And hearing two crack, one bam.
Yeah.
What could they be doing out there?
Right. Yeah. My mom, the same thing with the mahjong tiles. And so I gravitated towards it. You gravitated away.
Oh, yes. I made a movie in Las Vegas. I was there for 3 months. To get to my room,
Had to walk through.
this huge, it was at the Riviera.
Sure.
Walked through that. I didn't put a dime in anything
For 3 months.
for 3 months.
While the rest of the cast.
Some of them are there now. A couple of them are working there, paying it off. Never.
Yeah.
Never.
Would you-
No, it did the opposite for me. It
Yeah.
did the opposite because, you know,
Yeah.
like you were saying before, he'd be watching a basketball game and watching, and if a certain basket was made, we had a happy time.
Yes,
you know?
yes.
And he said, "We missed it." I said, "Things are going to not be so good for a little while."
Yeah.
here." But he was
quiet dinner.
Yeah, great guy.
Some
I
nights.
loved him. He took me to the track too, all of that. I
Did he?
loved it, yeah.
You worked with Walter Matthau, of course. He when I had the great opportunity to work with him in a couple of movies, in the Grumpy Old Men pictures,
Yeah.
I would hear the stories from him about him and Fred Astaire going to the track every weekend when Hollywood Park was in season of the ponies, to the point where he told me that, I mean, Walter, as you must know, could arguably been called a degenerate gambler. On the back of the program, in fact, at his memorial, were his picks for that Sunday's games. Yeah. So he told me he would go with Fred Astaire to the racetrack, and he could never get Astaire to to curse under any circumstances. And of course, Walter, one of the smartest men I've ever met,
That's for sure.
but could curse and make a sailor
Yeah.
pass out,
yeah.
and loved to shock people with it. But he could never induce any curse words from a stand. And then he said, maybe after 10 or more years of going to the track with Fred, one day he received a plain envelope in the mail, opened it up, and there was a cassette tape. It said, "Play Me." And he put it in, and it was Fred Astaire calling a race, a horse race, and the name of every horse was the most disgusting curse word.
I want it.
Exactly. That's exactly what I said. And he said, "Not on your life, kid. You'll never see it." Yeah.
I wanted it. I did a movie with Walter, House Calls. We played doctors. So I said to Walter, we operate at the beginning of the movie.
Yeah.
So I said, well, we have to go and see an operation. And he said, what for? So I said, we're doctors. We have to know what we're doing. We have to know how to handle the scalpels and do everything in the lingo and the attitudes. And he said, look, he said, first of all, I'm Walter Matthau. Do you think that the audience is going to think that I became a doctor to be in this movie? I said, no, okay, but we have to learn some things for this. Otherwise, it's not going to look real. When I said the word real to him, that kind of, you know. So he had a doctor who was his heart doctor, the doctor, and he said, all right, I called him. He said he set up a thing. He's doing an operation, and we'll go down in there. I said, oh, great. So we get down there, and the doctor comes out and he said, you have to suit up, both of you, before we go in. So he looked at me and he said, nah, I'm not doing it. So I said, you said you were going to do it. He said, nah, I'm not doing it. It's not for me.
The suiting up was enough?
Nothing. Yes, the suiting up. I'm not doing it. I'll be out here. You go in there. So I said, well, okay, but you know, you're going to miss out on what this is and everything. He said, I'll be out here. Which turned out was not far from Hollywood Park, where we were. So I go in, and I'm all suited up and everything, and they're doing an angiogram where they, you know, make a cut into this guy and insert this thing. And so I'm standing there, and they make a slice in this guy. The next thing I remember is I'm looking at linoleum. I've gone flat out onto the floor like this. And then nurse comes over to me and rolls me over.
Oh, that's helpful.
And she said, was this your first opening? So I thought, I opened on Broadway in a couple of plays, but I said, yeah. Oh, she said, you should have been sitting down. You should have been sitting down. She said, I don't think you should look at the closing. I said, I've also closed in there. And she said, no. So the next thing I know, they take me, and she said, I would like to spend time with you. We have a man who's under anesthesia here, and we have to attend to him, so I'll come back to you. So I came outside. They wheeled me outside. I'm now white.
Wheeled?
And yes. And Walter says, what the hell happened? So he said, did you learn anything in there? I said, not exactly. I said, I know how the floor looks, but not exactly. I said, what happened out here? He said, while you were in there learning nothing, I just made $3,000 at Hollywood Park.
Well, I think you both learned very important things that day.
Yes, yeah. The important thing is not to do any research or training for any role whatsoever.
Hear, hear.
Yeah. A couple things about that. First of all, here's one of the takeaways for me is the wonderful nurse saying, after finding out this was your first operation, let's not call it an opening, her advice was you shouldn't have been standing. Maybe you mentioned that prior to the procedure?
Right. Well, they didn't know I'm there. I could have been a doctor. You know, they don't know who this is standing in.
They'd not seen Barefoot in the Park.
No. And they couldn't recognize me from, So,
right. And then Walter, of course, found an opportunity to make a quick $3,000.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. The studying and learning how to do the mechanics of the person's occupation you're portraying in a film.
It came down to even costuming. It came when I would go with the costume designer we're going to get clothes for this character. So I thought, what character is that, I wonder? What is she talking about? So I'd see something and said, this looks good for the character. I said, well, I want to get these clothes after this, so I'm not too crazy about that. I like that jacket. I think he'd wear this. Yes, and he'd like, you know what? I think he needs a certain kind of underwear and socks, you know?
Yeah.
Because my plan was to get these things afterwards.
Yeah. Yeah, see, I am so delighted to hear this because I am from a very similar rule of thought. There are the Oliviers, the Brandos, the Sean Penns, and let them have their pain. Daniel Day-Lewis's, who can't have even speak out of character during the working hours. Let them have their frustration and their anxiety. I want the cashmere jacket.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm working on a TV show right now, and they said, what do you, my character is a Beverly Hills dermatologist. Mm-hmm. And I said, I think he should wear Ted Baker clothing. And they said, oh yeah, that's pricey stuff. It's very good. So you want to, yes.
Yeah.
And I have a full new wardrobe now of Ted
That's
Baker.
what it's for. That's what this is for.
One of the first, yeah. Let's, I want to talk a little bit, if you don't mind, about a very early part of your life that I've not heard much about from anyone. And that is, you grew up in one of the most productive and positive eras in the country. So you're 7 years old when World War II ends, and then going, and which is sort of when you're realizing what's happening around you,
Sort
I think,
of.
around that age.
Yeah, sort of. I was in New York City, so I remember very well the day the war was over, and we all went outside, and confetti and toilet paper and stuff coming out of all the windows and all of that.
They were kind enough to put it maybe 3 weeks after your birthday, very close to your.
Yes,
right?
Yes. I thought it was for me.
That was what I was thinking, looking at the research.
Yeah. Well, at that time, it relates to show business in a way because my uncle was in vaudeville.
Yes.
Joe Browning. And I made a movie with George Burns, The Sunshine Boys. And I said to George, did you know my uncle? So he said, what's his name? So I said, Joe Browning. He said, well, not only did I know him, I know his act. You want to hear it?
He was a vaudeville comedian.
He was a vaudeville comedian. And George, he said to me, we were on the bill with him. Your uncle was a headliner. He said, I don't know if you knew that or not. We were at the middle of the bill.
Gracie and Alan opened up for your dad,
yeah,
uncle.
For my uncle, yeah. And when I was 5, in that very same place in New York, my folks, I was in pajamas and a little tiny robe.
Sure.
And I have that robe. And
it fits your shoe.
yeah. And my mom came and said, we're going to see Uncle Joe. So you don't have time to get dressed. We're just going to take you down there. He's at the Palace Theater in New York. And the cousins, everybody's going, and we're going to see him in the show. Uncle Joe, who I had only seen at the Beacon at the Beacon Hotel in New York on 74th Street, where he lived with my Aunt Frances, where they had a trunk in the middle of the room with JB and the letters intertwined on there, ready to go. He was ready, have trunk, we'll travel, all that. But
did you have a sense that Uncle Joe was a performer?
No. I didn't know what it was. So they take me down there, and to get to our seats, I had to walk behind the screen. A movie was playing before the acts came on.
Sure.
And the screen is very porous. So from behind, I can look straight through the screen and see all, the theater held something like, 2,400 people. It's a big theater. I could see all these people looking like this, which they seem to be looking at me.
Yeah. Slightly unnerving.
Yeah, but they're looking at the screen. The lights reflected off onto them. You can see straight through it. And my dad said, come on, and I'm like this. And they pull me over. And
that's a memory that doesn't go away.
It's, So I'm sitting in the seats, and then ladies and gentlemen, Joe Brown, he comes out, 2 front teeth blacked out, a hat, preacher's collar, and he comes out there and he starts talking, and they're laughing, and he's talking. They laugh some more. He starts singing, and I thought to myself, wow, these are Uncle Joe's friends.
2,400 of them.
Yeah, and he has a lot of friends. Only he talks. They don't talk.
This is a
But
perfect friendship, by the way.
It's really great.
It's a narcissist dream.
And I can't put any of this together.
Yeah, none of it makes sense to you.
What it is.
Right, why he's wearing the black on the teeth.
No, his teeth are blacked out. You know, what happened to his teeth? You know, all of this. And they are laughing and applauding and everything, and he goes off. And it took me a long time to know what that was. It took me a very long time.
And you saw your parents laughing.
Yes, everybody was laughing.
Right.
But what was I at here? Because I only knew Uncle Joe from there. And the only other time that I saw this kind of trunk, I think I've got this right. Jerry Lewis put Stan Laurel and his wife into an apartment on Ocean Boulevard. They were destitute. And Jerry Lewis never broadcast that, or I think this is correct. But anyway, a friend of mine was doing a thesis on Laurel and Hardy, and he was at UCLA. So he said to me, I have an interview with Stan Laurel. Do you want to come with me? Well, what?
Yeah.
So, yeah. So there we are on Ocean Boulevard, faces the water, little apartment building.
Not far from here.
No. Rings the buzzer, and I hear, yes? So I said, he says, it's Jerry, and I brought a friend with me. He said, come right up. I hear over the little speaker. I said, God, it's that.
Singular voice.
We come upstairs, little apartment, 1-bedroom apartment. In the center of the apartment is a trunk, SL with the letters intertwined. He's ready to go.
He's ready to go.
He's ready to go.
And how old would he have been at that point? Do we
Yeah,
think?
he was in his probably 70s
Sure.
by then. Yeah.
Sure. And sitting with him, just a conversation.
Just sitting there, his wife was there, and just, I was quiet, but to hear him, he said, Jerry asked him, in the Foreign Legion thing, and I know you'll appreciate this, in the Foreign Legion thing, they're marching somewhere.
Yeah.
He's out of step. They're all in step. He taps the guy in front of him. Yeah, that guy gets out of step. Finally, the whole platoon is out of step except for the sergeant. So, and the sergeant goes crazy and all that. So Jerry asked him, how did that happen? He said, well, we had to go from here to there, so we thought we better go funny.
It was just going to be a marching.
Yeah.
That was not scripted
No.
that he was going to do that.
We better go funny.
Oh.
And that's
genius.
it is better to go funny.
Yes, always.
It's better to go funny.
Yeah, otherwise you're going to have to cut.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's not waste too much of the film of them marching back.
No.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, yes. I had a similar experience a couple years ago where I would have been you and Jerry Lewis would have been Stan Laurel, aside from all the destitute part, because Jerry came out of retirement to do this movie called Max Rose, and I played his son.
Oh, wow.
And so, to hear some of his stories.
Yeah.
How did you become friendly with Jerry?
This was not Jerry Lewis who took me. It was Jerry Lewis who put him in the apartment. My friend Jerry was doing it. He's another Jerry who was doing it. But I knew Jerry Lewis when he took over from Mike Douglas in Philadelphia.
Right.
And Paul and I were on that show.
Would that have been the time during the television show?
Yeah, probably right around there.
Right.
I think when we probably publicizing it or something.
Well, forgive me, we have to talk about the television show. First of all, someone tweeted at me a quote from CBS, apparently, who famously said, "This is the greatest show we'll ever cancel," or something to that effect.
Exactly. We got a call. We've done, we were doing the show, and we did the first, 13 or something. and reviews were spectacular.
Yeah.
And Perry Lafferty, who was our champion at CBS, called, congratulated us on the reviews. He said, but in television, that's not the end of it. You know,
Unlike the theater.
unlike, yeah. We followed Beverly Hillbillies and Green Acres. Beverly Hillbillies number 1,
Sure.
Green Acres number 2.
Yeah.
In those days, that it was the Tiffany Network, whatever you want to call it. So we followed Green Acres, which always ended with a pig dancing.
Wait a second.
Yes.
Please don't denigrate
No, okay.
the quality.
I know, no. His name was Arnold.
Oh, I remember Arnold
Yeah.
Ziffel, sir.
And I said to Paula, I don't know about this. We follow this pig. I don't know if this is our audience.
Yeah.
I don't
the
know.
the intellectual nervous Jew in the shiksa in an apartment
In an urban,
Manhattan,
in an urban
following
environment.
a dancing pig.
Yeah.
Let's see. That sounds like the same demographic.
Yeah. So I don't know about this. So then the show's going along.
Why would they program of all the nights? I guess because they wanted to give you the biggest
They
lead-in.
did. They did.
That's how much we love your show.
It's a double-edged sword, you know. So yes, exactly. They gave us this tremendous lead-in, and where we were, which was, I don't know, we were 14th or something. They were first and second or whatever it was on
Yeah.
CBS
Yes.
at that time. Today, if we had the ratings
Oh.
that we had then, okay.
You had half the country
Yeah.
watching in 14th place.
That's right. So anyway, we do, and they're saying we had in our contract, sponsored by Jell-O, and we'll want you to do Jell-O commercials. Now, I know things Paula doesn't know at all, or nor does she care about.
Right.
I said, it'll lock us in if we're doing those Jell-O commercials. We'll be identified with Jell-O. I said, this is going to be good. So as the weeks went by, I said, you want to do that, well, you know, on our off day, the Jell-O thing, and then a Jello. So we'll see. I said, when they're not committing to us in the Jell-O, I can feel it. I can feel it. And actually, that they never did. Okay, so then we had the first break, and we went away, and then we came back. We did like 24 altogether. So
It was considered 2 seasons.
yeah, I guess. I mean, I think we did 26 or something like that.
Yeah.
So at the end, we get a call from Mike Dan at CBS, and he says, it's Mike Dan, CBS. Oh, hi. Yeah. He said, listen, we love your show. We absolutely, I was too new to know the translations of what words were in show business.
Sure.
Yeah. We love your show.
Kiss of death.
It's a great show. It's one of the best shows we've ever had, and we're canceling you. And I said, thank you. So I hung up the phone and I said to Paula, he said, here's the thing. They're canceling our show, and I think I thanked them.
Yeah. I've had those conversations where you say thank you at the
Yeah.
end because it's how you were raised.
Yeah.
It's the absolute last thing you wanted to say
Yeah.
after you hang
Yeah,
up.
yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
Who were the writers and creator behind the show? 'Cause
Leonard Stern.
Leonard Stern.
Leonard Stern created it.
Yeah.
And the original title of the show was He, She, and It.
Sure.
And then Jack Cassidy was on the show playing this fabulous, outrageous character.
Oh, I love Jack
and
Cassidy.
CBS said, you're going to have to take the it off. They think he's it. It was the house.
Oh.
It was the apartment. That was what the it was supposed to be. But people thought with Jack, he, she, and it was him.
Right.
him. So he said, we'll just call it he and she.
Yeah. And I, in my previous life of being married elsewhere to an actress, I found myself doing a television pilot together and thinking, this should not continue. You, however, what was the conversation? What is the creative flow around the house when you're first asked to co-star?
Well, they asked Paula. They asked Paula, which in those days...
star in this show.
Yes, they asked Paula, and in those years, they mostly asked Paula.
Sure.
Quite sure who this person was, but they asked Paula.
Well, this is prior to you being a movie star.
Yeah, well, prior to being in the movie.
You'd
yeah.
done Broadway?
I had done, I had done the National Company of Barefoot in the Park, which was directed by Mike Nichols with Myrna Loy, which was a wonderful experience. Then and Neil Simon, and then Neil Simon he and Mike put me in The Odd Couple, which I did with Dan Daly, which was a great experience, wonderful
Also
guy.
on Broadway?
That was, again, National Company.
National Company.
And then from there, my first Broadway was Star Spangled Girl with Tony Perkins and Connie Stevens, and that was also Neil Simon. So that, here's a little thing.
Sure.
So people say, you shouldn't be, don't be nervous when you're auditioning, you know?
Yeah.
So, okay. So Penny Fuller, who we went to school with, was understudying Liz Ashley in Barefoot in the Park on Broadway. And I'm walking around New York City with my 8x10 and my resume and all that. And she said, they're doing the National Company. Are you auditioning for it? You should be auditioning for it. I said, I don't know anything about that. I had an agent. And I called the agent and I said, what about that? He said, oh yeah, that's a good idea. Sure. Yeah, that'll be good. I mean, if she hadn't told me that, I'm just saying how this little thing played out. If she hadn't told me that, I wouldn't have known about that.
That's right.
So she says, with Mike, don't try and be funny, be real, all that stuff. But we know also that what funny people know is how to hide the fact that it's funny or whatever.
Yeah,
so,
sure.
So anyway, and he certainly was a believer in all that. So anyway, I go to the audition and there's somebody auditioning before me. And I won't say who it was, but he was famous. He was already in the movies. And I hear his part of his audition, and halfway through the audition, I hear, because I had not met Mike at that point, but I had known his voice from the records and everything. And halfway through, I hear, thank you, and it's him saying to this guy.
Halfway through.
This guy's audition. And the guy said, I'm not finished. And he said, yes, you are. And, okay, Richard, you're next.
Why would you be nervous?
I miss the old days.
Yeah. Thank you. I'm not finished. Yes, you are.
So I go out there.
Spectacular.
I go out there, and
now, is this in an office?
it's in the theater.
It's in a theater.
It's at the Plymouth Theater where the show is, the Broadway show is. And I go out there, and I start to hear laughter, and I could hear his laugh and all that. And then I finish. And he comes walking down the aisle, and he said, well, that's going to be fine, isn't it? And I thought, what? He said, no, it's all fine. So that's fine.
How committed?
Yeah. And I go outside, and the agent is there, and he said, you got it. That's what fine meant.
You didn't stink.
No, that'll be fine. But that was Mike, So what I'm saying is, from not knowing about the audition,
Sure.
not being there for 10 minutes, I go for 13 months on the road with Myrna Loy. I go for a year with Dan Daly in The Odd Couple. And Neil Simon puts me in my first Broadway show, Star Spangled Girl, with Tony Perkins. From that 10 minutes.
That's exactly right. That's exactly
So
right.
somebody says, no need to be nervous. Your life is in the balance here.
Yeah.
You know?
It is the, we talked briefly beforehand about my sincere curiosity about the trajectory and how there's no correct path for any of this.
No.
There's either the one we're invited to take or the one we choose to take when we have choices to make.
You can't. I mean, because we went to school together at Northwestern, me, Paula, Penny. Penny is understudying Liz Ashley. I mean, how
these things just worked out.
Where are your plans?
Right. Right. So when I asked about, you said, but they asked Paula to do the show.
Yeah.
I wanted to establish that while you hadn't done
Oh, right.
By
No,
Columbus.
but here's the thing.
Yeah.
So CBS, so then Paula said, I want to do it with my husband. Leonard's wife had seen me in Barefoot in the Park in Chicago. She had talked to Leonard then, before there was any show, anything. She said, there's a guy and there's a kid in this that you would like. Anyway, so
She planted the seed.
in a way, in a strange way. So Leonard meets with me and Paula says, I'll only do this if I can do it with my husband. So he says, great, okay, fine. Now we're rehearsing and getting ready to shoot the first show, and Leonard comes to me, he said, I just got a call from CBS. So I said, what? He said, well, they asked me if I had made the deal with Paula Prentice's husband to play the opposite her, and he said, yeah, the deal's all done. He said, why? He said, we just wondered if he was an actor.
Oh no. that doesn't sound like a network at all.
I said,
Did you tell him to call Mike Nichols?
yes. No, he's a nuclear physicist, but he thought he'd like to try his hand at this. You know?
Yeah. It's just the kind of power that Paula Prentice had at the time.
He's Ed Wood's chiropractor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yes. So
You had it with being an accountant?
yeah.
We have the job for you.
Yeah, so you'd like to be an actor? Well, Walter told me that his brother, who ran a hardware store, said to him one day, he said, how much you make in this game? To Walter. And he told him, he said, no kidding. He said, I think I'd like to try and get into this.
Yeah. It is a never-ending opportunity of joy for the so-called layman to weigh in.
Yeah.
I remember I'd been only in Los Angeles for a couple of years as a stand-up comedian first. And my brother back home said, well, when things were a struggle, he said, well, you know what you got to do? You got to get on that Tonight Show. Oh,
Okay.
so do you have their number?
Yeah.
How do I go about? Yeah, that's what you got to do. You got to get on that Tonight Show.
Well, when I was first married, and Paula was under contract to MGM,
Right.
and Joe Pasternak produced a whole bunch of her first pictures, and I was just out here, kind of Mr. Prentice or something, you know. And he said to me, there was a dinner party, you know, and he was Hungarian, all Zsa, Hosea, Turb, all Hungarians in this place, and Paula and me. And he asked me what I wanted to do, and I said, well, I want to be an actor. He said, you know, it's not such a good idea. It doesn't usually work. What would be better for you is if you were a doctor. So I said, well, Mr. Pasternak, isn't there a certain amount of training? Like 7 or 9 years or something before you can become... He said, well, yes. He said, but it'll be better in your relationship. You'll see.
Wow.
Oh, hearing that, yeah.
Thank goodness he had all the answers.
Yeah.
But were there conversations between you and Paul? Was there an interest in working together at some point? I mean, obviously you'd worked
yes.
together in college. You had directed her.
Yes,
But you'd not co-starred in a television show. I mean, that's a very specific thing.
It is. Yes, I mean...
At first it sounds great. We get the same hours.
It is great. I mean, it was great. The only thing that wasn't great was that she never looks back. I learned early on, if I tried to suggest things to her about how to do something, Woody Allen said about her, it all goes in wrong and it all comes out right.
Wow.
There's something in there that you can't get involved with.
It all goes in wrong
and it all comes out right.
That's
And
pretty
any time
spectacular.
I gave her, we were at stock together at Eaglesmere, Pennsylvania, and she was doing the Rosalind Russell part in Wonderful Town with Penny. And she's got this song about, what the heck is that song about? But it's something about, she's got this thing, and she talks, and she's got something in that song that says, nature's broom, meaning a laxative.
Oh, right.
So in performing,
I'd never heard it called that before. I'm
but
rather fond of that term
it's
now.
Comden and Green, and it's something in one of these songs. Nature's Broom. She got this immense laugh every single time she did it. And I thought to myself, does she know what Nature's Broom is? Do I dare? Could this laugh be bigger if she knew what she was talking about? I weighed that, and I said, Paula, you know what Nature's Broom is? I don't know, it's just funny, isn't it? So I said, you get a huge, yeah, I think it's kind of funny. I said, it's a laxative. That's what they're talking about. She said, oh, yeah? The laugh was never as big after I clued her in.
You ruined it.
Yeah, because I had to open my mouth and make sure she understood this joke. She didn't need to understand.
She understood timing. Yeah.
Yeah. No, we had a great time together. We loved it. The thing is that she never looked back on the way home, because we shot with 3 cameras and 4 cameras in front of an audience. And on the way home, I'd replay the show. I'd say, if I had hit that a little harder. She said, isn't this over?
Yeah. Don't we have next week's script?
Yes, right. Isn't it? I said, yeah, and I'd be in the car. But if I,
But that Yin and Yang, I believe, just celebrated its 54th anniversary?
54 with the little woman. Or as Buck Henry calls her, the big woman.
Well, he's little.
Yeah.
Wowsy.
Wowsy is right.
Yeah.
Wowsy is right.
That's hitting the lottery in a way that's...
Oh, yeah. I knew from the first second I laid eyes on her, yeah.
But did she?
Well, there was quite a line I had to get on, but I was so clever. She was in a play. And something happened, and she let everybody down. It was a workshop production. We had this great acting teacher, Alvina Krauss, and there was a critique afterwards, and she blamed the entire failure on Paula Ragusa, which was her name then. And I thought, this is perfect. I'm going to direct her next quarter in The Disenchanted by Bud Schulberg, and she's going to be brilliant. And we're going to have late night rehearsals and everything. That's all I cared about.
All going to work out.
Yeah. And I used that as this thing to jump to the head of the line. Mm-hmm. And it worked perfectly. She was amazing. And
she was grateful to you?
Well, I don't know about that, but we did get together.
Yes. Okay, so let's jump around a little bit. They have been working for almost a year for HBO to bring Westworld to the television as a series. Again, hearkening to my youth, when the movie came out that you co-starred in with Yul Brynner and James Brolin, it was a very early Michael Crichton, but as life-altering as a movie-going experience as his later work Jurassic Park was, I promise you, those of you who didn't go through this, it was as spectacular and unnerving at the same time as a movie-going experience. I recently watched just the trailer, pulled up the trailer online with that horrible narration they would do in movies of the time. It's a vacation place where things go wrong. And it just seems like camp, just watching it because it was a moment in time. But it brought me right back to the actual moment in time, which was pretty spectacular and again unnerving. What? So I'm wondering, as an actor getting a script that sort of represents a story being told that's wholly original, like that.
Yeah.
What that?
Oh yeah. The minute I read it, and I guess I had read Andromeda. Well, had Andromeda been out already? He didn't direct that. This was his first picture that he directed, I think.
Really?
I believe so, yeah. Andromeda Strain. Was that Robert Wise, maybe? And
Sam, go to the phone.
And he had written under, I'd read other things that he wrote, we didn't know him then, and we became very good friends with him. And I read this and I thought, this is, the machines go crazy, the machines take over. You put too much trust in them and they'll kill you, Yes, which is why I don't have an iPhone yet, but
or a car that drives you.
Yes, or a car that drives me. So, yeah, I read it and I just thought, and loving science fiction anyway.
Sure.
The idea that this Jewish kid from the west side of New York is going to be in a Western.
Well, this was my question.
Yeah.
I should have gone to my notes. Truly and honestly, because that again, tapping into my own youth, you got to achieve a Jewish actor's fantasy to a legendary degree, starring in a Western.
Yeah. When was I going to be opposite Randolph Scott, on Trail Street? How is that going to happen?
Yeah.
But this is a way, I am going to outdraw Yul Brynner, from Magnificent Seven, so, and I'm going to ride all through Red Rock Canyon, and I'm going to do all this stuff. So it was a dream come true.
Yeah. Was there horse and shooting training? It's the old adage of the actor, right? I got a saddle in the trunk when they ask, can you ride?
Right. Actually, I did. Well, the training came from Yul, for me. The training came from Yul, who was a great man and a generous, kind man. And he came to me one day and he said, most Western stars, I don't care who they are, there's two things. Never let them shoot you getting from the ground up to the horse.
You should say, never let them film you.
Film you, right. Never let them put
shooting.
your foot in the stirrup, they cut away, and you're settling into things. Unless you're Ben Johnson or some stunt rider who can just vault up there,
We don't want to see the Jew getting onto the horse.
pulling himself up.
That's a different movie.
Falling over the saddle, So don't let them do that.
They're gigantic beasts.
They are.
The first time you approach them.
Yeah. And the other thing is, and he said, you can watch big Western stars, when they fire a gun, they blink. They blink. He said, I don't blink. And I'm going to teach you not to blink.
Can you, in fact, teach us now?
Have you got any
I'm packing.
You're packing.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Yeah.
So what was there a mental trick?
Yes, mental and physical. So he took me out in the back lot on MGM. We had 6 guns and cartridges with blanks, but they were loud. Mm-hmm. And he put he'd fill the cylinders, and we'd fire them, and every time he didn't, but I did.
Sure.
Because it goes like that. He said, all right. So he'd take out 5 and put 1, just keep 1 in there, and spin the chamber. And you pull it, and it clicks, but you do that because you think it's going to be 1. And then you do another one, and you think it's going to be 1. And after a little bit, you stop blinking because you think there's nothing there.
It's going to be fine.
And then you fire 1, and you don't blink. Because you have changed your, it's like Pavlov or something. You've changed some kind of behavior.
Right.
And one of the things I'm most proud of in that movie is, although I did shoot him in the eye,
spoiler alert, guys. I mean,
Well, teach him not to blink.
Right. Yeah, that's right. So George Siegel, my good friend, shot him in the eye in Invitation to a Gunfighter.
Okay.
By accident, of course, because out of the front of these guns comes this big wad of stuff, cotton and something else. So Yul said to me, he said, an actor once shot me. I later found out it was George. And he had silver contact lenses in his eyes to give him that kind of look.
Robotic.
Yeah. So he said, what we're going to do is the effects guy is going to set this squib off in me, and but on a certain count. So you pull the trigger, your gun goes off, and the squib goes off on me. He said, but it's got to be on that 3 count because I'm going to close my eye at that second so that stuff doesn't go in my eye. I got it. So we're going, and there's the adrenaline of stuff, and he draws and I draw, and to this day I'm not exactly sure what happened, but on 2 And I like to put it this way, my gun went off.
I see. As they do.
Yeah, I'm not sure I had anything to do with it.
By the way.
My gun went off
Yeah.
and shot him in the eye with this wad of stuff.
Sure. I've always said, people don't kill people. Guns that go off kill people.
So, but he kept going, and as you would, and then they had to take him to the hospital because it got in between the thing and everything like that. So it was the effects guy. It wasn't me, and all of this kind of stuff. Of course, I felt horrible. And
What was his reaction after telling you, "Don't shoot me in the eye"? Was he a champ about
no,
it?
he kind of was, but he wasn't happy. Let's
No, of
put
course
it that
not.
way. So.
I wonder.
Yeah.
Forgive me. The next picture he worked on.
Yeah. Well, the
next actor.
Okay. Oh, here's the thing. The first actor who shot him in the eye was a Jew from New York, and the second actor was a Jew. And he
just
said,
what I was
"Okay,
thinking.
I'm gonna any gunfight. There can be no Jews
No
with
Jews.
guns.
Gentiles only from now on are allowed to fire at me.
Fire at me."
Oh my.
Oh Lord.
So he does have a shootout with James Brolin.
Yeah.
That's when we first know things are going not
Yeah.
so great.
Right.
Spoiler alert.
Yeah. Yeah.
He's not Jewish.
But he's not Jewish, so
No.
clearly he did not shoot him in the eye.
No. He
It was
we
fine.
know what happened to him. Yeah. Right. No.
Yes. All right. So speaking of the Jew from New York, you in the after he and she, which although coming in 14th and having half the country watching, was quote unquote not a hit in the ratings necessary to maintain. Goodbye Columbus is a moment in time where there was a while, it seemed, for those of us with our wanting to have our finger on the comedy pulse, where you and Woody Allen in the early to mid 70s represented the Jewish leading man. You had the short, schlubby version. Yes. And then you had, forgive me, tall, dark, and handsome. I mean, you were not the even to a California Jew, which I've always been. You were not the Woody Allen version. How aware are you and your team, or as you're going through opportunities when Columbus comes along? Does it play into? I mean, are you aware of the connection between not just typecasting, but that New York Jewish sensibility?
So, yeah. I mean, to a certain extent, it had more to do, I think, with the material. I mean, while we were making Goodbye Columbus, we were reading in excerpts on the set of Portnoy's Complaint, and the book was, really, really funny, and so it was more of, I think, understanding that material, and coming. My mother was nothing like the mother in Portnoy's Complaint, but understanding that Jewish experience that Philip Roth was writing about was very close to me, and certainly Goodbye Columbus was very, very close to me. So it was all I knew, kind of.
Right, but I mean, when you did The Odd Couple, you mentioned,
Right.
that was not a
No, and neither
character.
Barefoot in the Park. I mean, on Broadway it was Redford. So no, so I had no thinking that way. Although you have Neil Simon, who's Jewish, you have Mike Nichols, who's Jewish. There's a Jewish, I don't know what, that is flying around there in terms of Lenny Bruce, in terms of a
comedic sensibility.
Yes, a comedic sensibility of a survival.
Yeah.
Of survival by humor.
Sure.
As a way to defend and to fend off things like that. It's very ingrained. It's very ingrained.
Right. Yeah. So let's talk about what happens. We talked about a moment in time, those 10 minutes that led to the world of Mike Nichols, that led to technically many things to follow.
Yeah.
Goodbye Columbus comes out. You're the it girl in that demographic of actors.
Yeah.
What is that transition? Because that's a huge transition, and not everyone makes it through, quite frankly. 'Cause there's the concern: do you treat everything like your career like a porcelain egg, and you have to be very careful about what you do next? Or, as a character actor, in my case, I was a girl who couldn't say no.
Well,
'cause I couldn't believe they were offering things. Suddenly, I wasn't auditioning.
Mike used to say something. He said every actor should take every part that's offered to him.
Huh.
There's something to that. There's something to that. I mean, you have one foot on the brake, one on the accelerator, and what you know, and also you try and pick. Listen. We all know in the early days of studios, and Paula was at the last part of that at MGM. You work 50 weeks a year. You had 2 weeks off. They told you what your next picture is, and they said, okay, this is for Gable, this is for Gary Cooper, this is for Humphrey Bogart, this is for Jimmy Cagney. You know, oh no, not that. I remember one time a friend of mine, an agent we knew, was Clint Eastwood's agent, and somebody came to him with an offer and said, this would be so different for Clint. And he said, you don't understand. We don't want so different for Clint.
You try to make a career?
Yeah, but you're on your own. There was a time when they, knew exactly what they were doing and with whom they were doing it, and if you were lucky, you were under contract, and if you weren't, you were out.
Right.
So
that adds to the question, because suddenly you were a type. Whereas with Barefoot in the Park and The Odd Couple, you weren't on stage as a touring actor.
Right. Yeah, but you haven't got anybody there who says, this is your next picture, this is your next. So you are, trying to make intelligent decisions, and all I knew to do was to respond to material. I didn't know what else to do.
Right.
And it wasn't a feeling, oh, you gotta capitalize on this quick, you know what I mean, or something like that.
But you also had an opportunity to go after things. You mentioned reading Portnoy's complaint in excerpts on the set.
Yeah.
And then eventually, when the film came around, according to
I
the
wanted
research,
to do that, yeah.
you went after it just a little bit.
I did.
Yeah.
I did.
That's a huge thing that I push a lot, which is being proactive, because we're told to wait till the phone rings.
Yeah, but it's the same. It's it's the same of playing that, as I said, one foot on the brake and one on the accelerator. What do you do? You want to do good things.
Yes.
And someone told me it's like you're your own stock.
Right.
And where is that stock? And if you say, well, it's payoff time now. I remember somebody asked Rex Harrison why he did some dreadful picture. He said, The House in Portofino. You know what I mean? I want a house, or something like that. I could never quite do it. I couldn't do it because I wouldn't know how to do it.
Sure.
And
cashing in on oneself.
Again, it would, if the material, was there, that was an offer, but I said, I can't, I don't know what this, I can't do it. I don't know what I'm going to do on that first day. You know what I mean? Whereas Goodbye Columbus said, give me this part. I know what this is,
Yeah. Also, getting on the other side of things, you directed, as I mentioned, in college, and then around this time transitioning into directing television. I do want to spend some time on my favorite year, but a couple of minutes on directing live television.
Mm-hmm.
I've not heard from anyone who has done that.
Well, it wasn't live. It was 3-camera.
Oh, it was live to tape.
It was live to tape or film, whatever we were
okay.
doing there. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Wait,
But
so-
that's like a little play.
Sure.
Yeah.
You'd done it as an actor with He and She.
Yeah.
You knew that world.
Yeah. I knew that world. Yeah. And that got me something to show people.
Right.
You know, because we made a pilot of Where's Papa? Marvin Worth produced it, and he asked me to direct it, which was great. And Elsa Lanchester played the Ruth Gordon part, and I'm working with the Bride of Frankenstein. You know, I mean, this is pretty good. So we make the
She came
show.
with the wig every day.
we make the show, and it was ABC, and ABC said, "We like the pilot, but we're not picking this up." And Marvin came to me and he said, they're not going to pick it up. I said, why? They say the mother's crazy, and we can't have any crazy mothers on television. So I said, tell them she's eccentric, not crazy. He said, I told them that. But they said, no, he's trying to kill her right at the beginning of the show. We can't have this. I don't know what they thought when they read it.
Yeah.
But, we can't have any of that. But that was a nice calling card.
That's exactly right.
That was a nice calling card, yeah.
And so how does My Favorite Year come into your life?
I'm in New York. Paul and I are doing, speaking of things for money, Paul and I are doing a Time Life magazine, Time Life.
Music?
No, they're like tutorials. They're industrial
Industrial film?
tutorials.
Absolutely. Yes.
And no one. I said, "Where's this going to be seen?"
No one.
So, right in the
In-house.
in the basement and in the Life building.
Yeah.
Okay, that's where. Said okay. So while we're there, my agent, David Gersh, who was Phil Gersh's son, who's still my agent, David, sends me this script. He said, "There's this script. They're interested in you." Mel Brooks and Mike Gruskoff, and let us know what you think, and if you like it, when you come back, you'll meet with them. So, again, I was a page at NBC, I was a guide at NBC, it's your show of shows.
Yes.
I know the studios, I know where the water fountains are on every floor there. You know what? And I'm thinking, it's perfection, for things that I love and
And you knew Mel Brooks prior.
I didn't know him.
No.
Not prior. So, come back here. Mel and Michael come over and we chat. And they say, okay, this would be great. Let's do it. So it's like some kind of miracle. It's like some kind of miracle. And the same thing happened. A couple of days. Mel calls me before we start shooting. And he said, I just got a call from David Begelman at MGM. He said, he was the head of MGM. He said, tell me again why we're letting Benjamin direct this. So Mel said, I told him we think you're sane. So he said, you're an actor. You're going to have to act sane during this. So,
Oh, wow.
so I said, okay.
That's helpful.
Yeah. So it was just, again, what? Make it up, what?
Yeah. So when you met with them to get the job initially, was it the fact that you could tell them your experience as the NBC page, a world that you actually lived in and thrived in?
All of it, I think, and loving your show of shows.
Right.
And
which Mel wanted to hear.
Yes, and knowing the routines and knowing that, and in Miracle of, wonderful kind of thing, obviously before he passed away, a number of times we went up to see Sid Caesar at his house, and although he was frail, his mind was sharp. I could do the routines with him, and it was like, because my friend and I at the High School of Performing Arts on Sunday, we get on the phone and do everything they did
Yes.
the night before.
That's right.
From Here to Eternity was From Here to Obscurity.
Right.
Expensive Pictures presents, all that stuff, so I knew every single routine, and to sit there now, 30 years later, whatever, with Sid,
Yeah.
and say, Uncle Goopy, and what do you call it? This is your life, and
Yes.
all that. It's pretty great. So I knew that whole world.
So how do you go about casting someone who's going to inhabit that which was Sid Caesar, not to mention the part
Oh,
Peter
well,
O'Toole
that
was
was-
going to play, because I loved Joe Bologna in this role.
Yeah.
Love.
Yeah.
When he turns to the R.I.P.
Yeah.
Gift from the mob while he's standing in the wings,
Yeah.
it may be my favorite moment in the film when he looks at it and says, "Good." That single word performance is the embodiment
Yeah.
of confidence and a world of
Yes.
strength
Yes.
that only legendary Sid Caesar.
Yes.
lived.
Yeah. And that whole world, when he knows he's hurt
Yeah.
Bill Macy's feelings by shooting the script. What's that smell?
Oh.
It's the script.
When he-
It's a stink burger. And he said, I think I hurt his feeling. He said, get him something, tires,
Yes,
Yeah.
that was the answer. Yeah, that was the other part, was walking on the stage. What's that smell?
Yeah, well, that happened. Casting him was Mel telling me to get Joe. So we had Peter, and he said, for King Kaiser's, it's easy. He said, get Joe Bologna. So okay. So I call his agent, and he said, he said, well, send the script, blah, 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 blah. Send the script over, and get a call back from his agent. He said, he's sorry, he's passing. He's not interested. So
God.
I tell Mel, we'll have to move on. He said, unacceptable. That's unacceptable. It's Joe. He said, call him. So I said, he said, call him. You're the director. That's your job. Okay. So I called. I said, Joe, because we had met years before and stuff. And he said, and I said, we really would love you to do this, and take another look at it. And he said, I'll look at it, but I don't think so. But thank you very much for thinking of me. A couple of days later, I call him, and he said, I thought it over. No, he said, but thank you very much, and goodbye. Call Mel. Unacceptable! Unacceptable! I said, he said no. He said he doesn't. He said, call him. Wait one day and call him. So I call him, and I said, I'm so sorry to do this. I know what you said, and I feel bad about this, but we really love. And he said, listen, I don't want to embarrass anybody. I don't want you to be embarrassed, but please, I'm not going to do it. I call Mel. Unacceptable. And I said, he wants nothing to do with this. And he said, call him. 2 days later, I call him. I said, Joe, he said, when do we start?
Oh my. Oh my. Oh my. That's ridiculous.
It's ridiculous, all right.
That's unacceptable.
Unacceptable. It's
He just wanted to make sure you liked him. What the
yes,
hell?
I don't know.
And did that show itself during the production, that same sort of unacceptable anxiety and insecurity?
No.
You got
not at
asked me
all.
4 times and then the answer is yes?
Yeah, no, none of that. It was like it never happened.
Wow.
It never happened.
And it wasn't about money.
No, there wasn't money. Hadn't even been discussed. Nothing. I don't know. And
I wonder who got in there.
I don't know.
Or whether he was just.
I don't know.
Yeah. So now let's go back to getting Peter O'Toole, because as much as I love, and I truly love Joe Bologna, he puts on a comedy acting clinic for my likes in the film.
I agree.
Peter O'Toole has to embody what we want to think that movie star is.
Yeah.
And the word I'd always heard was, you could assume that's who Peter O'Toole is. The truth is closer to he was a mensch and a sweet man.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
And a total professional.
Right.
And it was Paula, when she read the script, she said, get Peter. She had made What's New Pussycat with him.
Speaking of Woody Allen.
Yeah. And they had offered it to Albert Finney. Mm-hmm. And
He called Joe Bologna.
yeah, don't do this. He was up in Sausalito making a picture called Shoot the Moon, and they said, MGM will greenlight this picture. There's a very short list, and we offered it to him. You've got to go up there and convince him. There'll be no movie unless he says yes. Okay, so off I go, and I have my new job. And I meet him, charming, Tom Jones, the whole thing. But I
Sure.
can tell we're going to spend the whole day together. He's going to say no at the end of the day. You know, actors can tell actors. I can tell what's going to happen here. We have a wonderful day. He takes me to lunch. He's living on a houseboat, and I'm spending a fabulous day. And finally, we get to it at the end when I have to go back and get on a plane. And he said, you know, I think the script is wonderful. But I have to go back to the theater. I've made 3 movies here. They're going to pay me £125 a week, which is like, what, $140 or something to be in the theater. He said, I have to go back. So I knew that, and I got off. I called Gruskoff and said, he's not going to do it. So I...
Thank goodness you didn't call Mel, because we know what he would have said.
Yeah, unacceptable. Go get him. So, yeah. So I said, who else is on it? So he said, well, it's short. It's O'Toole is on it. So we went to find O'Toole.
And where did you find him?
Well, where did we find him? So the story is he's on his farm in Ireland, which has no phone, no nothing.
Sure.
You call a pub.
Oh, that's great.
You call a pub in Ireland. I'm in my office at MGM. You call a pub, and they will get, if he's not in the pub, they will get a message out to him.
Sure.
It's about 3 o'clock in the afternoon. I don't know, it's 8 hours later. I call a place, it sounds like it's having a riot, you know? And, O'Toole!
I so love the power
Yeah.
that you've given this bartender
Yes. Oh,
who
yeah.
answers the phone.
Yeah.
It's show business calling again. They want to talk to O'Toole. Yeah, he's not here.
That's right.
Yeah.
And he's not here. And I said, well...
Let's see if I can get him for you.
Yeah. Is he on his farm? And you hear, I'm sorry. No, they don't know where he is. All right. So we start looking around, and I tell Mel, I said, well, so far we can't find him. I call his agent in England.
Sure.
And say, do you know where? He said, no, but if you find him, let me know.
Did you call the pub?
Yeah. So for some reason, I call his manager here. And I said, we're looking for him. Do you know where he is? And he says, yes. He's at the Beverly Wilshire Hotel.
So you call the bartender there.
Yeah. Huh? So, okay, so
So you drive 2 blocks.
I drive 2 blocks. I call him. He comes right on the phone. I call him. I have a script, blah, blah, blah. Go over there, and we have a chat and all of this. And I have the script. He puts it down. He asks about Paula and all of this. Charming and very nice. We have tea and scones. And he said, I will call you tomorrow with my answer. So Norman Steinberg and I, Norman wrote it, are in my office. We're just kind of, looking out the window and stuff. And he calls and he said, can you come by here? So I say, okay. I go out there, and he said, now, I see the script sitting over there, and he said, I have read everything except the last 10 pages, but I must be very professional, and I must read those pages. I go out there for him to tell me this.
So cool your heels while I finish reading it?
Yes, but tomorrow.
Oh, no.
Back I go, and I say, he is Alan Swan, okay? He's got 10 pages in there. So Norman and I, so the phone, he's going to call at 3 o'clock. On the dot, the phone rings. My secretary, Carolyn, says, it's Mr. O'Toole for you. Hi, he said, do you have the script there? I said, yes. He said, will you open the script to the last page? Now, in the original movie, which I shot, the last scene takes place in a cemetery. And Marklin Baker, who plays the Benji character, does something O'Toole has passed on. And O'Toole asked him to do this on his birthday every year, this one thing. And now we see what he asked him to do in this big, long tracking shot. And Benji walks into the Hollywood cemetery, goes and takes out a bottle of Courvoisier and pours it onto the grave, which is what he asked him to do. And then the camera moves in to the gravestone, which has a date on it. his birth date and
Death
death
date.
date. So he said, "Will you turn to the last page?" I said, "Yes." He said, "What's on that page?" I said, "It's just that last thing, what's on the tombstone." He said, "Yes." He said, "Now, if you add those dates up, it's my exact age. But look at the birth date." I said, "Yes, that's my birthday."
Oh my God.
He said, "Did you know that?" And we said, I looked to Norman, I said, because Norman could hear on the other phone, and he said, he said, "No, Norman just picked that date." He said, "Well, then I have to do this movie."
Oh my. Oh my.
Unbelievable.
That's historic.
Yes.
You never stopped kissing Norman.
I said, "What?" He said, "I don't know.
Pulled it out of a hat.
Just a date."
Sure.
And it wasn't his birthday, it was nobody he knew. He just put that date down in there.
Pretty spectacular.
Yeah.
And
So it's part of this
Yeah.
miracle, blah, blah.
Yeah.
You know?
Yes. Timing. The timing was horrible for Albert Finney. He had to get the hell out of show business
Yeah.
and go back to the theater.
And he said to me, he said, "We do this all the time."
Yeah.
He said, "I can't do something," and he does it.
I know too.
He said that.
Yeah. The research shows that he was the consummate professional, as you mentioned, unless you perhaps called him late to the, or called him to the set and you weren't ready.
Oh, that was a thing, yes. You had to, first of all, I don't think I ever did more than 3 takes. It was like some kind of howitzer straddling targets, you know, by the 3rd take, you know, and everybody kept up with him, and, you know, it was like playing tennis with somebody
Yeah.
who had a better game than you did.
Yeah.
But he only asked for one thing. He said, "Do not call me unless you're really ready." I
Right.
mean, he'd been, there's the story on, he did this picture of Masada,
Right.
and he was in a hotel about 20 miles from the set, you know, had the same instructions: "Do not call me out there unless you're ready." And they called him out there, and then when the sandstorm came up, and the blah blah, and the thing said, "Sorry, Mr. O'Toole, we're terribly sorry, but we don't think we're going to get to you today." He said, "That's no problem." He said, I'll just go home, and then you call me." And they said, "Oh, okay." The next day, they're ready for him. They call the hotel. Is Mr. O'Toole there? "Oh, no, he checked out yesterday." So what? "Oh, yes, he went home."
To Ireland.
To Ireland.
Fantastic.
So,
Yeah.
anyway, so I told Jerry Hirschfeld, our DP, I said, "Don't,
Ever.
you got, when you say you're ready, no one touches a light, no one moves a ladder, no hammers going up." I know they say, "We just do it quietly." There's no such thing as quiet hammering. So
So the one time it happens.
he's in Israel. He said, I say, "You ready? You really ready?" "Yeah." Call him. And Jerry says, "Uh-oh." I said, "Uh-oh." So we've called him. There's no uh-oh. And he said, that light is pushed over. Someone hit the light. He won't be in the light in this shot. He said, he's on his way. He died. So he said, so get a grip. You know, Grip's got the ladder. And
When Peter sees the ladder.
I said, "Yeah." So if that ladder isn't back there, and I said, "Get him up there." He can't get him up there. "What do you mean?" Grip, you have to get an electrician up there. What? I said, "It's the union. You can't. He can't go up there. He can move the ladder there, but he can't go up there. He can hold the ladder while the guy is up there touching the light, but he can't go up and touch that light. Where's that guy? We're getting him." I said, "There's no such thing as we're getting him, because we're getting him means you don't even know where he is." So I'm saying he's going to come through that door. He's going to come through. So the guy goes up there, runs up there, pushes the light over, and as he's coming down, the stage door opens, and Peter, like a laser, sees the light being put, the ladder being pushed, and without breaking stride, U-turn, back, and so I say, he says, "But he'll come right back." I said, "No, they're English. They take all their clothes off.
That's right.
They hang them all up neatly. They make sure they're pressed and everything." No, there's no such thing. It's not like you and me." He said, "Okay, well," he said, no.
but he eventually came back.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Can I ask a question? about
Please,
my
I wish
favorite
you
year?
would, Sammy. We're just about out of time.
I know.
We've gone an hour and a half.
No.
Does it seem?
No.
Right?
No, I thought we were just
You'll
starting.
have to come back.
So if the Levine household had to pick a favorite movie of ours of all time, it is hands down my favorite year.
Really?
Well, without question.
How nice.
And when I was very little, I'd already seen the movie 30, 40 times.
You mean,
one time?
you mean when I was very young?
Yeah. Yeah, thanks a lot, Kev. Running short on time.
Well,
Glad you
as
slid that
a
one in there.
fellow midget, I can say these things.
Sure. And one time it comes on broadcast television, not cable. And there's that opening scene where Benji Stone walks into the elevator and he's got the cutout.
Yeah.
And for the first time ever, we see dialogue in that scene.
Really?
That is not in the theatrical version.
What dialogue was it? Do you remember?
Son of a bitch. I wish I could remember the exact
How could
back
that
and
be,
forth.
I wonder?
But it turns out there is a syndicated cut, a broadcast cut of the movie.
Really?
With 3 scenes not in the theatrical version.
No kidding. That you mean
that cut.
add to it or something else cut from it?
I think it's one of those deals where they edit it for time.
Right.
And so if one scene, if they leave it in, it's 6 minutes, but if they take it out, then they're 90 seconds shy, so they have to put a 90-second scene in to fill the time properly.
Because there's a DGA thing, and I don't remember ever getting a thing say, do you want to supervise this, blah, blah. You know, I don't
Yeah.
remember anything like that, but I don't remember what could have been said in there. Was what's her name in there?
In the elevator?
Yeah.
No, I think it's just, it's Marklyn Baker and, this is the problem, which is this version only came on once in my life.
Right.
So I don't remember it vividly. But my brother.
You remember the standout difference, though? What the hell happened to the movie?
Yes.
Yeah.
It was watching a movie you'd seen 30
Right,
times. And you're like,
yeah. So you would know
what am I
that,
watching
yeah.
here?
I wonder what that scene was, unless.
wow. But this is, I guess this answers my question, which
Yeah.
is this happened outside of the scope of your control.
Well, obviously, it was something that we shot,
Yeah.
and either cut for some reason, and but it shouldn't be outside the scope of the director because you usually supervise that kind of thing, or you sign off on it and say no, go ahead, do what you want.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't do that.
I think it's Jessica Harper.
Jessica.
Yeah.
That I have a slight. If she was in the elevator, then there may have been something.
Yeah.
Because he kept pursuing her all the time, and I love Jessica. Was so good. Jessica.
Yeah.
You know.
I think he's trying to
Yeah,
come
there
on to
must
her and
be.
she's saying, forget it.
Yeah. And when you said before about Farnsworth, there's a thing of him in the hallway there, Philo T. Farnsworth with cathode ray tube and stuff.
Well, listen, you are going to have to come back. I'm looking online for the live questions. They want to know about The Last of Sheila, which I love, which in the research, thank you, J-Mac, finding out that Tony Perkins and Stephen Sondheim had arranged these games in New York and almost become famous for the treasure hunts and what have you.
Yeah, they did.
And then they co-wrote the film.
They wrote it.
Yeah.
They wrote it.
So I have to hear more about that.
Okay.
Well, we are going to take this, one of the games we play on the show is called a Tweet 5, where someone from the Twitter universe will write a question, a series of questions.
T5,
For the
T5 forever now.
Coke or Pepsi, 5 rapid questions in a row that only you can answer correctly.
Oh.
So here we go from Craig Stephen Woods. Brenner or Brolin?
Brenner or Brolin?
Yul Brenner or James Brolin? These are Sophie choices, some of these.
Okay, you mean what, to spend a holiday
Let's
with?
say.
or-
Thank you for not being specific, Craig Stephen Woods. Let's say having a meal with, because if it's working with, then you can't choose.
Well, right now I'll say Brolin because having a meal with Yule
Means-
may be long distance. so.
yeah. Alan Swan or King Kaiser?
Oh, Alan Swan or King Kaiser?
Tough, right?
That's tough. I don't know. Swan.
Yeah.
I love Swan because I love Errol Flynn and Douglas Fairbanks
Yeah.
and all those people. Yeah.
This might be easier, acting or directing.
Oh, That's
See?
no easier.
Oh, no.
No easier. I love them both. What's great about directing is that you're the first one there, the last one to leave. I really like it. Yeah.
Comedy or drama?
Comedy. I mean, dying is easy.
Yeah.
Comedy is hard.
The First Family or The Last of Sheila?
First Family or The Last of Sheila? We had so much fun in The First Family.
Right?
Bob Newhart and Gilda and everybody and Buck. I don't know. The Last of Sheila.
Was 3 months in the south of France.
Oh boy, we Paul and I lost something like 25 pounds, and we had the highest cholesterol rating in the history of anybody.
Well, that answers the question
Yeah.
perfectly. Okay, well, so you have to come back, please, because or I need to take you and the family to dinner. I have a lot of more questions that I didn't want to hog the interview with.
Well, may I say that you've made this so pleasurable?
Thank you so much,
It's
honestly.
really a pleasure.
Well, then we must
Thank you.
dine, please.
All right.
You don't have to answer on camera.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
very
Thank
much
you
for
so
that,
much.
honestly and truly, for spending part of your Sunday.
Oh, it's a pleasure.
And we thank your son, Ross, who made this all possible.
Yes.
And
He's made a lot of things possible.
oh, I like that. I liked in the research, too, some of the interview that you gave when you realized life with Paula before having a child,
Right.
Your first, Ross, in terms of being completely and utterly about your careers and your lives together, and how much greater and more fulfilled life became.
Well, we always say if we knew it was going to be Ross and Prentice, our daughter,
Right.
we would have had them sooner.
Sure.
Yeah.
All right. And talking about working with Mike and so on and so forth, so many things. You'll have to come back.
Busy
All right.
next Sunday? I mean, I don't want to book the show for you, KP.
Yeah,
but-
that's right.
No, you have the next Sunday booked.
We don't.
Yeah.
So we'll see you next Sunday. All right. Sit there uncomfortably while we wrap things up for the folks at home and around the world. So tune in, watch it, follow us. Let's see. We've got at Sam Levine.
Yes.
We've got at Jason McIntyre, right? At Corey Levin.
Probably.
Probably. Follow at KP Chat Show about upcoming shows. If you're in the Los Angeles area, November 22nd, don't miss the Vince Gilligan live in front of an audience from Largo at the Coronet. I want to thank everybody who worked here. Samantha Ward, Corey Levin, Sam Levine, Jason McIntyre. We've got a trainee up in the crow's nest, who I'm very excited about. And Chris Boyette, thank you for all of your help sitting in for the Dumans. Kenny Chen rushed out of here not feeling well after helping set up, so hopefully none of us got sick.
He knew
from
there'd be a
coming in
lot of
contact with him.
Semitic talk going on, and he just can't be.
The assumption was hangover, but I'm going to go with illness. Okay, well, we'll know. And Jamie, get home safely. Until next time, and as always, get out of my face.